Hello everybody, today I'm going to be going over how I optimize performance when building a website from scratch or when I'm improving an existing website. So let's get right into it. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to go to the Chrome Web Store or whatever web app browser store that you use, and I'm going to go ahead and search up Lighthouse. I already have it installed, but what you want to do is you want to click here and install that into your browser. So that's going to allow you to scan your websites using an extension. You can use, there is a page speed website that Google provides, but it's much easier to just use Lighthouse, just the extension. So then once you install it, you're going to have it right here, and you're going to be able to use it in your DevTools. So that's step number one. And step number two is just going to whatever website that you're building, you're improving, or whatever the case may be. For example, I'm going to go to Rise, their website, just a random website I picked, and I'm going to go into my DevTools here. So I'm going to do on Mac, it is, I believe, Command Shift I. Wrong. Alt Shift I. Also wrong. Command I. Command Control I. Or F12. F12 also works. So you're going to come in here and you're initially going to probably see just something like this here. So elements, console, sources. And what you want to do is you can extend it if you want. I like to extend it to have the bigger screen. And you're going to see Lighthouse here. If you don't, it might be here in the extra tab. So just look here and you might get it. So you want to click Lighthouse here, and it's going to give you all these options here. So you want to choose navigation, desktop or mobile, whichever one you want to test, and then the top four here. We're not going to test progressive web app because that's a little different. That doesn't necessarily pertain to performance as much, but we're going to click these four here. And we're going to do analyze page load and wait for it to analyze the entire page. Okay, so here we are. So this is what you will see when you analyze a page with Lighthouse. You're going to get your performance, your accessibility, your best practices, and your SEO scores. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this performance score here. And I'm going to go ahead and break down all of the reasons for this 69 out of 100. So I'll go down here, and so you can see here the 5 criteria that they test and then how much each criteria is worth. So the total blocking time is the most important by far. It is 30 points total, and it's usually you have a decent total blocking time on most websites. If you don't have a good total blocking time, that is usually a larger problem than, say, first contentful paint, larger contentful paint, speed index, or layout shift, because total blocking time usually pertains to your JavaScript, your app plugins, or so on. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first look at all of these diagnostics down here, because these down here, this large list here, is going to tell me every small thing with detail what is wrong with the page or what is slowing it down and making that score lower than what we want, which what we always want is in the 90s or ideally 100. But that's not always possible, but we always want an improvement. So I'm going to first look at the easiest fixes. And so some of the easiest fixes that there are going to be lazy loading images, properly sizing images, deferring render blocking scripts, adding descriptive text to links or ARIA labels for SEO, avoid excessive DOM size, and adding alt attributes to images. So here we have largest contentful paint element, biggest problem, but also the easiest fix. So this is just saying it's massive, obviously. Big hero image, and if we go into the inspect here, okay, so here it is. It is a set as the background image, which can be good. It makes it very responsive, so that's nice. It moves around accordingly. It's very nice and responsive. But the only problem with using background image, as a side note, is that it is not optimized. For instance, 332 KB for this one background image. That's massive. That is huge if that's your hero image and that's your first contentful paint, your largest contentful paint, etc. That's huge. Ideally, we want it as small as possible, but realistically, we want it, around 150, 200, but 330, getting into like the 500s, that's pretty huge. Unless you're using Next.js, you can't really get away with that on, in this case, it's a Shopify store. So there's an easy one. Optimize this image, maybe turn it into a cover image. So instead of using background image, make it the image tag and use source set. That is what I would do here. So looking at, say, another one here, another easy one. Eliminating render blocking resources can also be an easier fix. So in this case, they're using jQuery. So if it's possible for them to defer that script, that would very much help this 360 milliseconds of blocking time here. So that would also help. And a lot of these issues here appear to be in the yellow category. So not much to fix here that's easy. So some hard fixes that I'll look at after: properly sizing images, minifying JavaScript, preloading the largest contentful paint, reducing unused CSS, reducing unused JavaScript. Reducing unused JavaScript is another one that is hard to fix, especially when you're using a CMS. Because if you're using a CMS, there are a lot of plugins and external JavaScript that are going to be used that you have no control over. You can't, for instance, edit Yotpo's scripts that they're bringing in, or Conversion Bear, or CloudFront, or PostScript, Shopify, any of these CDNs or any of these scripts coming in. So this is all from Shopify. This is Yotpo, some of their, just all of their plugins, along with the Shopify CMS. So that one is always going to be a really hard one to reduce. Luckily, it's only a yellow issue, not necessarily a massive issue. Another one that is very easy fix, hard though if the site's already built, that is reducing excessive DOM size. But if there's already a DOM that is in, it's very hard to go in and make a substantial edit to that, in this case 1442 elements. So some harder issues to fix are something like prevented back forward cache restoration. So this is almost browser or CMS dependent. You usually can't just go in and fix this in the code base. It's a lot harder to do that. Another one is, obviously, like we said before, it's going to be reduce unused JavaScript. That one's not going to be easy, and it's going to be pretty much out of your control. Another one here is serve static images with an efficient cache policy. That's also most likely going to be out of your control, and that's in the browser's hands. So a lot of browser dependent things here. But also some other, coming out of the speed score now, we are going into accessibility, best practices, and SEO. These ones are always going to be much easier than your speed score increase, because there's usually very small issues that are very easily fixed. So in this instance, image elements do not have alt attributes. That is as easy as of a fix as can be. You simply go into the image tag here, like all these arrows, all of their buttons do not have alt attributes. So you go in, image arrow here, and you simply add an alt attribute, and that's it. Then your accessibility score is going to skyrocket. And we'll go down to best practices here. Best practices, another one that's a little bit more difficult to change sometimes. So sometimes your best practices score is lower than you might want, and it's not necessarily your fault. So if you are using WordPress or Shopify or any sort of CMS, you are likely going to have a hard time getting this score to 100 or really high, mostly because of third-party cookies. So all of these plugins here, a lot of their plugins are going to use cookies, and that always is going, or at least lately, going to give an error because Chrome is getting rid of cookies in future versions. So that's going to be tough, but you don't necessarily have to worry about that, because that is the app's issue to resolve, which you don't have to touch. SEO, again, is another one that's very, very easy to fix. It's already 92 because it's the easiest one to get high. And they could get this to 100 by simply adding alt attributes to these arrows here. And then that would be it. So how I would go about optimizing performance for this website or any website in particular is I would start just from easiest to hardest in terms of optimizing performance. And then I would go to accessibility, best practices, and SEO. So performance, I would start with optimizing images because that is going to give you the biggest boost for the least amount of work. There's usually not a ton of work in optimizing images and replacing them in the code base. And that's going to result in a massive increase. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to defer all the scripts that I can. So if I have, for instance, a custom script in my Shopify store that instantiates a slider element on mobile or desktop, I'm going to defer that absolutely and make that so it has nothing to do with the page loading, and that's going to increase our speed index here. And then once I get through the easy issues, I'm going to then go into the more hard ones, such as minifying the JavaScript, reduce unused JavaScript, and some of these other ones like the DOM size, anything that is fixable, but maybe a little bit more difficult. And then once I get through performance, I'm going to go to accessibility, best practices, and SEO, and I'm going to optimize where I can there. And then that's going to be it per page. So in this case, this is just the home page. This isn't a full site audit. This is just the home page. So if I want to then go and optimize their protein page, I would click the X here, and I would analyze page load again, wait for it to load. Then here we have it. So we have 74 speed score, good accessibility, great SEO, the same best practices, because like I said, most of these best practices score are going to be based off of your app plugins and some things that are out of your control. So this doesn't necessarily mean the most. The most important always to me is performance, because that is the one that you can change the most and that makes the most impact for your website. So in this case, 74. Big thing here, cumulative layout shift, a very easy fix. So if I refresh here, you can see these shift. An easy fix there would simply be making these containers here have explicit heights. So right here, you see they don't have explicit heights. They are just filling to the image. So if the image doesn't load because it's loaded lazily, which is an issue, that should be eagerly loaded because it's above the fold. But that's another topic. But to make this a explicit height and to always have an explicit height for this that fills the row here, that would make the cumulative layout shift 0, and that would give us an extra, that would give us an extra 7 points towards our speed score. That would get us into the 80s, much better than 74. 74 doesn't look as good. But the main issue here is speed index, which can be solved by properly sizing images, fixing these. So largest Contentful Paint image was lazily loaded. That issue is the easiest issue to fix because all you do is get rid of loading equals lazy, and that's it. It's all you do, and it massively improves your performance. Like all three of these are lazily loaded here. So just an example, if I were to have the error properly size images here, what I would do is, first of all, I'd go to tinypng.com and I would compress the image. This is the best image compression software there is by far. I would compress the images, and then I would go into, so say this is the code base here. Most images are going to be like this. myimage.png and then alt image. And you can render images like this, but this is not the most optimal way. What I would do is use source set here. So what I would do here is specify sizes. So in this case, could be something like max width 1100 pixels, just like a CSS media query. And then I would do, 600, we'll just say 650 width. And then otherwise 1400 width. Sorry, pixels, not width, pixels. So in the source set, then I would do my image large small.png for 1400 width, or my image small.png for the 650 width. And so doing it this way, this is going to optimize your images as best you can. And you can add more and more source sets here. Typically, I usually do 3 or 4. So I'll do like a mobile, a tablet, a desktop, and then a large desktop. All right, so that's it. So that's how I optimize performance in websites that I'm building or that I'm rebuilding. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below and comment any suggestions for future videos or questions that you may want answered. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.